dragons so badass they're in the title of the game. There are, in my opinion, there should be different levels of dragons. D&D 3rd edition handles different levels of dragons by giving each of the dragons different age categories. Essentially, the older a dragon is, the more powerful they are. They're effectively immortal. Dragons do not die of old age. They only die of adventure-related causes, which is not covered by the dragon insurance plan. But this probably came from a second edition article in Dragon magazine, how apropos, where they detailed the greater drakes. And that blew my mind when I read it. Now, the way they define it, there are like three, there's more than this, but I'm going to talk right now about three different classes of dragon. There are the false dragons, and there's two subclasses of false dragon. There is the wyvern, or a lot of people say wyvern. I've always called it wyvern. Both of them are the accepted pronunciation. Neither of them is correct over and above the other. So the wyvern is a draconic creature with 2 legs and no forelimbs, just 2 wings and 2 legs. And they generally have a stinger-tipped tail and have venom. Then the other false dragon is the drake. And the drake is essentially a dragon. They have 4 limbs, like 4 legs, or 2 legs and 2 forelimbs, and a pair of wings, but they lack a breath weapon, an actual, like, magical breath weapon. One of the coolest ones, my favorite of the greater drakes, and unfortunately I don't remember the name of it. I actually probably have a copy of that dragon article on my computer 2,500 miles away. The black drake lives in swamps, and it keeps a bee or wasp hive, a beehive or a wasp's nest, hidden inside its mouth. There's like this gullet down below its mouth, and it allows the bees or wasps to live there. And when it wants to use its breath weapon, what it does is it has a set of muscles in that gullet sac that begin to throb and agitate the bees. And then as that cloud of bees starts, coming out of the hive and building up in its mouth, it then basically spits them at you. And so its breath weapon is just this swarm of bees. And because it doesn't like just spit the flying bees out, it mixes them with nasty juices and secretions and junk. And so you get like this wet wad of bees that slams into you and kind of sticks to you, and then all the bees sting you, and it's very bad for everybody involved. Those are cool, but they're false dragons. Then there's the real dragons, and those are the dragons that you're used to seeing. These are the picture here is from Record of Lodoss War, which is a super awesome anime that's partly based off of a Dungeons and Dragons game. And these are the 5 legendary dragons, or ancient dragons, that are still alive. You have Bromd, the ice dragon, Shooting Star, the fire dragon, Nars, the black evil dragon, Mycen, the good dragon, and this is Abram, the sea dragon. They are not. They are even above what you would consider a dragon. Dragons by themselves are awesome in the fact that they're awe-inspiring, terrible in the fact that they are, they fill you with terror. They're incredibly powerful creatures. These are ancient dragons. These guys are almost on par with gods in their power in the Record of Lodoss War anime. And here's another, not this one. This one is another picture. This is like an artist's rendition of them. And you can see they look slightly different. Like here, Abram has... They turned what in the anime looked like jutting gigantic cheekbones coming out each side into basically like these tendrils coming off of his head. And I love the idea of these ancient dragons. These are not small dragons. And even what you would consider a large dragon, these are bigger. If you saw the movie How to Train Your Dragon and you saw the dragon-ish creature that was inside the mountain, that is the kind of level of giant we're talking about. And now I'll go to this picture if I can get this to work. You don't want to go while the picture's big, do you? Alright, there. We're talking dragons the size of freaking mountains. Shooting Star actually lived in a volcano. Brahmed, the ice dragon, actually was a mountain in and of himself. And I want that, even before the sandbox game, there were these ancient dragons. And there's only a handful of them. And for the most part, they don't ever do anything. They were super powerful way back in the day. I mean, even predating the war between the gods of law and chaos, these ancient dragons were already old. They are incredibly old and incredibly powerful, and they have incredible stores of treasure, and they spend essentially nowadays just spend their time hibernating in their respective lairs. So those are your at the very top of the chain super ancient dragons. Then of course you have your in your middle you have like the dragons, the ones that you normally hear about, the ones that attack towns and eat and kidnap princesses and eat livestock and farmers. Those kinds of dragons. Beneath that you have the drakes, which are dragons that lack breath weapons. Oh, there's another type of false dragon from not Living Forgotten Realms. From Forgotten Realms, there was the brown dragon, and in second and third edition, that was a false dragon because it didn't have wings. It was basically like a big dinosaur slash lizard slash dragon creature, but because it didn't have wings, it wasn't a real dragon. So that would be a kind of dragon you could lump in with the false dragons like the drakes. And then, of course, you have your drakes, and then beneath that you have your wyverns and your other dragon-like creatures, dragon turtles, stuff like that. There should be plenty of dragons in the Trocare sandbox game, of all these different types wandering about. But I do want to make the big dragons something special, not to fight. Players would have to be epic levels to stand a chance against these giant dragons, but just to come across them and find them, and each of them in Lodos. And again, Lodos was one of my major inspirations for this because I watched Record of Lodos War before Trocare. Each of the 5 ancient dragons guards a specific treasure. Like Shooting Star, which would be basically this picture, he guards the Scepter of Domination, which is a magic scepter that lets you take control of other people. Or Nars, the black dragon of evil, guards the Ferronniere, I think is how you pronounce it, of knowledge. A Ferronniere is the... You know when you think about like princesses back in medieval times, they would wear that jewel in the middle of their forehead and then the chain would go around their head to hold it up? That's a Ferronniere. And they were used to hide syphilis scars. When you get syphilis, you get lesions on your forehead, and so they would wear that jewel in their forehead to cover it, and it became the fashion sense. And it's got to relate to armor, to iron in some way, because Ferron, Ferron, or Pharaoh, depending on your language, is iron. So a Ferronniere must be related to iron in some way. What else did I want to say about dragons? I want the idea of the huge mega dragons just being there. I actually have a map. Too bad I didn't pull it up here. Of there's like a frozen waterfall, and in the middle of that waterfall, there's a dragon frozen in the waterfall, and there's an area on top of it where a temple was built. And this was just a map I found, and obviously that's going into the campaign. That's not going to be like one of the ancient dragons, but just a dragon frozen underneath this temple in ice that's frozen, made out of the ice of this waterfall that's frozen on the side of a mountain. And you probably can't get there by, climbing down the waterfall. You probably have to get there by climbing through the mountains somehow. Then there's another video I'll talk about a Chardalon, or Akan-i-Jan. This is from Guild Wars 2, the art book. But I like this evil demon dragon looking thing that's all chained down. That's probably going to make it into the game. You can see how big he is because here's these people over here. At least this one guy. And Akan-i-Jan, which I'll talk about in another video entirely because there's a whole bunch of stuff for him. And I can probably do it in even another video on the Black Duchy. But he is the demon dragon of dusk. He is the big bad evil guy that I thought up um, to be used in Trocare, but not necessarily for Trocare itself, the runes of Trocare. And he is, in addition to being one of the ancient dragons, he's even ancienter than the ancient dragon. He is in and of himself a god. He is in and of himself an ancient dragon. He is in and of himself a demon prince. This thing is like just incredibly powerful, but luckily for everybody, he's not the kind of dragon who goes and destroys villages and stuff. This guy, if he wanted to destroy something, he would destroy the entire world. So, and he's a bad guy, and he's locked away in the abyss, and so he can relate to the invasion of the demons across the land, but you want to kind of separate him away. He is a demon, yes, but he's also an evil god, but he's also an ancient dragon, and so you want to have him set aside as something special, not just making him a demon. But again, I can talk a little bit more about him and how he related to the original Trocare game at another time. So I think that's it for now. If I can, I'll look up that Drake article again because a couple of those Drakes were really cool, and just to have their information around would be nice. So yeah, expect dragons in Trocare simply because dragons are so cool. And as long as you're using pseudo dragons, false dragons and dragon-like creatures most of the time, then when the players actually get to fight a real dragon, it retains its specialness. You don't want to in a campaign where you constantly are fighting against dragons, dragons cease to be something special and something fearsome. When players see a dragon, they should be thinking, "Oh shit, there's a dragon." Especially if they're not aware of it at first. Third edition deliberately underplayed the challenge rating on dragons. The challenge rating on a dragon assumes that the party knows that there is a dragon and is prepared at deliberately going to fight the dragon. If they are not aware that there's a dragon and have not deliberately prepared to go and fight the dragon, they are going to get super destroyed. That's a stupid way to say it, but they're going to get destroyed by that dragon. The dragon is so powerful compared to what the challenge rating for it says. And that's not even adding class levels or anything like that on top of dragons. That just breaks the game. So we'll end that here, and another time I will talk about a Chardalon, and another time I will talk about the Black Duchy. Or I might talk about both of them kind of the same because they're related to each other. So bye bye.